Good morning, John. It's a good day because the number one complaint I hear from business owners is about communication. What have you got for us today?
I've got some great stuff, Doug, and thanks for hosting again. We're going to talk about HR data literacy. This is our webcast series. This is 1.7, and we're going to share a few research findings. Actually, just one research finding today about
Ooh,
communicating value. And if you're just joining us, this is just a webcast series. The intent is to build data literacy.
and celebrate.
Doug's holding up a couple of my books, and hey, there's a new version of it. It's called not action learning. It's called learning analytics, but the newest version, the dark blue and orange. We want to focus on data-rich content, 3 to 5 minutes. I'm John Mattox. That's Doug Gray. And we'd love to hear from you, ask questions, post reactions, share examples, etc. So let's get to content. So on screen here, this is the learning report. It's coming out soon.
Ooh, a
it's
teaser.
business insights. Yeah, teaser. Business insights to drive change for L&D. This is some research I've been doing over the past few months about organizational development, design things that make L&D effective. So today we're going to share one issue, and that's about communication. And Doug, you've probably seen this before. I know I've heard this a lot from our clients, that L&D is often unable to demonstrate value. They are not seen as a strategic partner to the business, and they often do not get a seat at the table to help make executive decisions. Has that been your experience too?
Absolutely. It reminds me of small children at big family gatherings. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way, but just that it's not the case that professionals often have enough data to share their story. If you don't have numbers and you can't quantify your impact, then why would I invite you into any of those conversations? So what have you got for us? Some
Exactly.
data?
So we, in the survey, we asked this brief survey about 20 questions about organizational design issues, and one of them was about communicating value. So we asked an open-ended question. What should you do more with regard to communication, or what should you do differently? And this was an open-ended question, so all the responses, comments came in. I read through them and then tried to make sense of them. And it turned out that there were 3 main themes. And intentionally, we're going 1, 2, 3 left to right, even though the data show 14, 50, and 36. I'll explain in just a second.
Okay.
So the 3 things that these L&D leaders were saying they should do more or differently with regard to communication is they need to make sure that they align what they're doing better with the business. It's kind of a no-brainer, but it was important enough for 14% of the respondents to mention. And then secondly, measurement. You need to measure so you know what's working and what's not, to get better data, to see whether it's aligned to the business, to see if things are changing like behaviors, whether there's an impact with ROI, to show impact, to show information on dashboards. These are all things that came up around measurement.
In other words, to use numbers to tell your stories, that would help them communicate their stories better if they had kind of like a newscaster has the quantitative guy sitting next to the qualitative guy, and the quantitative guy has all the numbers, and the qualitative sportscaster tells you stories about where the kid went to college and whatever knowledge
Exactly.
together.
Exactly. So if you're aligned and you have measurement and you're able to tell that story, then it gets to the end here where you can actually communicate. And 36% of respondents were saying, yes, we need to do a better job on the communication side. Just building better documents, being more consistent about it, getting support from even just getting help from corporate communications, things like that. But the important thing here is that there's a left to right logic model here. Align first, measure second, then communicate. If you don't do the first 2, you're not going to be able to do the communication and tell your story well at the end.
So
that's it to share. Doug, any other comments?
Just a question. If I understand correctly, these were open text boxes, so the bulleted points are what folks said. They're categories and themes, and then you sorted them into the 1, 2, 3 because structurally, you know that in order for any of this to work well in an organization, a team or an organization, there has to be alignment first before the other 2 things can happen. It's as if people are focusing on why aren't I at the table? What's wrong with my messaging, the communication, number 3, when instead they need to start with number 1, and then they need to add the numbers in number 2. I like it.
And I think this is the beauty of the data and the fact that these leaders were willing to share. they may not have seen it in this way, but it clearly came through in the aggregation of the comments that there's a link here. You have to align, you have to measure. If you do those things, you can tell a story.
Super. So if people want to participate in the learning report, I know it's an ongoing endeavor, but is that the next slide, or how do they do that? How do they find you?
Just contact me and I'll get you a link.
see.
So john@action-learning.com.
I thought that
And
was
the report will be available soon on Kajabi's for purchase. So we welcome people to take a look and share their feedback.
Absolutely. Very good. Are we done?
We're done. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, John. I like it.